Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast. And I do this weekly, every Friday, to give you the best news of the week when it comes to retro gaming and retro handhelds. This Friday is a little bit weird. I am actually recording this on Friday as opposed to Thursday as I usually do, because I knew there would be a lot of news and information that was going to release on Thursday. So I had to make sure I got it all in for you on Friday. So I'm skipping my usual half-day Friday where I just kind of screw off and go play some video games. But today's newscast is primarily going to be about the AYN Odin 3, all of the information we have, which is everything at this point, pricing, all of that. And we'll talk about the Lenovo Legion Go 2 a little bit and some other things. But first, muOS Goose, the custom firmware, is now out. And this is adding support for the Anbernic RG476H SP, TrimUI Brick, and TrimUI Smart Pro. There is a lot of other changes and fixes, but that is really the headline for most people. Now, I started my guide on this, and I ran into an issue with the RG476H SP, and so I'm waiting for a new fixed release, which they are going to release. So I'm just going to wait for that before making my video because it's not ready yet. But honestly, the muOS team just continues to be top tier in every way. I love their releases. I love muOS. And so you'll have my guide on how to set up muOS Goose whenever this new fixed release comes out, and we'll work on it then. That's really all I had for software news this week. It was a slow week for software, but question of the week. And this week's question of the week comes from a user, Superbottle. And he asked, what's your favorite genre of game? And what is everybody's favorite genre of game? Now, I think everybody kind of knows mine at this point if you've been following me. JRPGs, RGPs, just hold on. JRPGs, SRPGs, RPGs, but I pretty much play everything. Visual novels, I love a lot of those. I am, I don't know, not tied down to one genre, although I don't like Souls-likes and I don't like Metroidvanias. So while everybody's playing a certain game this week, I'm off in my own little world playing other things. So yeah, for me, RPGs, all kinds of RPGs, that's where I stand. So I guess the question is, dear audience, what is your favorite genre of game, if you have one? Or also, what don't you like, if you have that too? Let's jump over into device news now. And so for weeks, we have been seeing a lot of people with broken hinges for the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. We haven't really seen a response from Retroid on what they've done, how they fixed it, really anything like that. All they said was that you can send them in, we will send you a replacement, all of that, which is still good. But all that meant was you would be sending in a broken Retroid Pocket Flip 2 to receive another Retroid Pocket Flip 2 that will break again in the future. And so this cycle will just continue until your warranty runs out and then you're left with a broken Flip 2. And that's kind of where you're at. Then there's the users that know all of this information and still buy a Retroid Pocket Flip 2 because you can't save everybody. Sometimes the fish just wants to jump out of the aquarium, and it does it when you're not home. But it seems like Retroid has actually done something, although they haven't really told anybody about it. A user has a picture of one of their replacement Flip 2s, and the hinge is rounded now. Well, at least the part where it was cracking. So I'm going to put up a side-by-side. You can see, I'm going to circle it because it was a little hard for me to even see, but they rounded off that part that was cracking. Now, this is the visual reference that we have. We do not know what is going on underneath the hood, if they made any other changes. All we know is this, and Retroid hasn't said anything as of yet, at least on Friday. So this is all we got. It is a step in the right direction if it actually does fix the issue, which I'm going to assume they are probably guessing too on this one. I don't know, but it is good that they are trying something. I don't know how you could easily recommend the Flip 2 right now with all of the issues going on, knowing or trying to avoid a landmine that is cracking of the hinge. That is where I'm at, and especially when the AYN Thor is $20 more. I already didn't like the Flip 2, but I know a lot of people do. And so I don't know how you can recommend it right now. That's kind of where I'm at, but it is good to see that they are trying things. Ayaneo has announced an upcoming device called the Pocket Air Mini. I assume this will be under their new temporary brand that they're called Coder until they figure out a name that's better than Coder, although they'll probably just end up with Coder. I don't know. But they did say that this is sub $140. Now, they basically took the Pocket Air and they squished it all up and they made a device with a 4.2-inch 4x3 1280 by 960 screen. Can I just say that if Anbernic had used this screen in the RG477M or the upcoming RG476H, that I would have been a lot more interested in it because it would be more compact and smaller and more closer to the famed, awesome RG405M, which I recently bought again and I have sitting over there waiting for a new Gamma OS release. Back to the Pocket Air Mini though. This looks like it might be a fun one. I have worries that the top controls are too close to the sticks on the bottom, so I can see you hitting the stick for D-pad down or B. They are very close. That's a worry of mine. But otherwise, if priced right, I am actually interested in this. If priced right is the usual Ayaneo caveat here, but if they are going in for a budget brand, which they say are they going to do, then this needs to be priced right, and they can't be doing $30 in DHL shipping for it either. So this all depends on all of that, but if they are trying to fight Anbernic for a better 4x3 device at half the price, yeah, I'm here. I'm here for that. That's awesome. More people need to be fighting Anbernic like this. I think this is cool. Magic X, XU Retro, Ayaneo now, whoever else is going to be coming out, Magmi, AirX, all of these companies are coming for Anbernic because Anbernic kind of just been coasting for a long time now. And so we are starting to see a lot more options in these price ranges that are more powerful, that are better, all of that. So very interesting to see, and I'm curious to see what Ayaneo does with this. And then we get to Anbernic's newest device. They are teasing the RG476H, the plastic version to the RG477M, which they said they would never do, although it does come with one caveat, and that is, it is a different chip. This one has, or apparently will have, the T820 chip, not the D8300. 8300. I can't speak today. It is not going to have the same chip as the RG477M. It will have the same chip as the RG406V, the 406H, all of those devices. Now, for me, this is better because it is going to use that same screen from the RG Slide, from the RG477M, so that big 4.7-inch, 120 hertz 4x3 screen, except it should be about half the price of what that RG477M is, considering you can only buy the $280 SKU right now. I am interested in this because of that price range. I think that makes more sense to me for a 4x3 screen. Now, when I say I'm interested in this, I'm interested in checking it out, all that sort of thing. I don't see a way it would ever beat out my Portal or my Flip 1, but I'm interested in checking this out because it is cool. That screen is really good. It's just, it was put on the wrong devices. Now, I like how this device has the front glass panel. I have been a fan of that since the Odin 2 Portal, and I liked it on the other devices that have it. I want to see this device. I like their GameCube colored purple version of it. That is where I am going to head to. And it just looks like they are doing this on purpose. They are trying to either compete with Retroid or whatever it is by copying designs and things like that. And I'm all here for this. I'm all here for this competition. This is pretty cool. I know a lot of people are going to be unhappy with the fact that this uses the T820, but I think that's for me, that is the pro to this, not the con. So, yeah, but again, probably not somebody that's going to be super interested in this anyways. I just want to check it out because of the screen. Now, if I am you, I would wait for official pricing from the Ayaneo side to find out how much that costs because they are in direct competition with each other. But like I said with the RG Slide when that released, that 4.7-inch screen is going to be on everything. So you don't need to rush and grab whatever device and make concessions if it's not the device you want. I saw so many people jumping on that RG Slide, despite all of the issues that has, just because of the screen. But then you saw the RG477M come out. You're seeing this come out. There's going to be more. So like with all of these devices, If it doesn't have what you want, wait a month and you will get what you want. Don't get sucked in by FOMO. Lenovo announced all of the information about the Lenovo Legion Go 2, and I think everybody wishes that they kind of didn't. The Z2 version is going to retail for $1,099 while the Z2E version is going to retail for $1,349. It is likely the screen that is contributing to that massive price. 8.8-inch, 1200p, 144 Hz, VRR OLED screen, first of its kind in one of these handhelds. But I just can't get past the $1,349 cost. That is absolute insanity. They have lost their minds here. I don't know what else to say. I got nothing nice to say here, so I can't really say much else. The Xbox Ally X and the Xbox Ally, with those rumored prices, and I think it was $849 or $899 for the Xbox Ally X, with Microsoft's full backing and all of that and the reach that they will have for the console market, while the screen not being so good compared to the Legion Go 2, I think the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X is going to sweep this year because of the reach that it will have, and I don't see this doing very well at these prices. Look, I don't have much positive news to say about this story. I played with one back at CES 8 months ago. It was cool. It was nice. All of that. But it's the pricing that kills this. There is no way to get around that pricing. I don't know who's going to be buying that. Lenovo fumbled this. There is no other way to put it. They fumbled this. That pricing is just not great. Then we get to the top news story of the day, and it is AYN Odin 3, fully announced this week with everything we need to know. So I can finally give my full thoughts on this now. I have been waiting, and it's a good thing it lined up with the newscast because there wasn't really much to talk about until we got all of the information. Now, first up, we find out that they are using the same 6-inch OLED 120Hz screen that we see in the Thor. So most of us already guessed this, but it was nice to see confirmed. Then we also confirmed the chipset with the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor and the weight too of 390 grams, which I found pretty interesting. The Odin 2 Portal is 420 grams, 30 grams higher than this. Not that much of a difference. And then it was nice to get confirmation of the 8,000 milliamp hour battery. And if we look at all of the specs, they added a new Ultra variant with 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of hard drive space. And that's just insanity, I think. Now, one quick thing, the 128 gigabyte version is UFS 3.1. It is not UFS 4.0 like all of the other SKUs. So if you are buying the 8GB, 128GB version, which I do not suggest for a lot of different reasons, it will have slower internal storage. Now, somebody's going to ask, and I always have to repeat this, the reasons why you would not want the 8GB, 128GB versions of these devices is how much you have to put on that 128GB of internal storage. Android games have to go on internal storage, can't go on SD card. Winlator, as far as I know, goes on the internal storage. If you don't have Switch combined base game updates DLC, the updates in DLC install to the internal storage. Dolphin, NetherSX2, all of the texture packs, if you have them, install to the internal storage. So you can kind of see the issue here. It eats up right quick. Android games, especially at 20 to 30 gigabytes a pop, if you plan on playing those, which with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, don't hamper it by grabbing the 8GB version. Honestly, that's the other problem. 8GB, 2025, no. So all of this to say, if you are planning on buying one of these, you should consider jumping to the next SKU. But I don't own you. It's your money. I'm just giving you my thoughts. Now, there is nothing that stands out spec-wise. It is what you would expect, except 60 watts of charging, which is a massive upgrade. The other Odin 2s were 27 watts using a standard charger. You could only get to 45 watts using their proprietary charger that I actually have and I forget to always use. But for normal people, it was 27 watts. So this time, it seems like, unless it's going to be a proprietary charger again, should be 60 watts for everybody, which is cool. Android 15 is the only other hiccup here. but AYN has been good about providing builds that does have access to Android's data storage. And I am hoping that continues, because if I can't access Android's data storage to sync Dolphin, Nether SX2, Switch, and whatever else, then that is a bust for me personally, because that's how I use SyncThing, and that's how I sync my devices. Now, I trust AYN here because they've done it for all their other devices, but in case they haven't and they are watching this, please make sure that we can access Android's data storage. Then AYN did a huge poll about colors, purple versus blue, for the last slot. And because of how much demand there was for both, it was actually pretty cool. Everybody was fighting over both colors, and it came down to the wire. They just decided to release both colors. So now the final colors are black, white, purple, rainbow, and clear blue. Personally, if I was buying the device, I would go with white to match my Thor and to match my Odin 2 Portal. But I think every color, except for black, looks good. Now, side note, Nicole, Andy, if you're watching this, why does the Odin 3's white get white sticks, but the Thor gets gray sticks? Can we get that white sticks on the Thor, please? Because that's the one I'm buying. And then they finally announced the prices. The trap here, again, is the 128GB version for $299. Or, well, the real price is $349 for retail. I am actually disappointed that AYN is doing the Ayaneo thing here of the price delta between early bird or super early bird compared to retail. I don't like this at all. I don't like seeing this. So this is disappointing. But $369 super early bird, $399 early bird, $419 for the actual retail price of the Pro is really the starting point here, if we ignore the base. That really isn't a SKU anybody should be buying. So the Pro is where this starts, and $369 for 48 hours is the price, but the real price is $399 or $419. Then there are the other options, and if you are interested in those, you can check out the pricing. I think the pricing is fine for what you're getting, but it's the 8 Elite that isn't currently valued properly at the moment that is the problem. So let's talk my full thoughts here, because that likely doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but you probably understand if you've been following the 8 Elite. I've talked about this for the last few weeks, but after seeing this information, there still isn't anything here that's exciting me compared to the Odin 2 Portal that I would see a reason to jump to the Odin 3. I think if you have an Odin 2 and you want to jump up, then yeah, this is interesting, but it depends on what you've been using your Odin 2 for. Like if it's been Switch and Winlator and other things that use custom drivers, then you probably will see a downgrade in a lot of things here. Now, that is a generalization. There are a lot of games that do not need driver support. Those will run a lot better on the 8 Elite. But it's all the compatibility of the games that do not run well that is the problem. So if you are jumping up, or if you're only playing up to GameCube and PS2, if that's your cap, none of this matters. You can get the nice upgrade for the screen. You can get all of the 8 Elite benefits of better battery life, at least I've seen on my Fold 7. All of that. So that's a nice upgrade, but you're not getting a performance upgrade there. I mean, GameCube and PS2 are not going to run any better than they do on the Odin 2. They already run really good there, so there's not much difference there. So you're mostly doing it for the screen, maybe the form factor, maybe some other things, all of that. The problem becomes the 8 Elite is where you want to jump to for performance. The problem is the performance is hindered because of compatibility in the emulators that use that. So as soon as you want to jump up for Switch, Winlator, RPCSX, all of those, that is where the problem happens, and that's where the value drops of the 8 Elite. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people that can upgrade here. I'd mentioned the Odin 2 if you still have one. Retroid Pocket 5 users, if you want to get the stick in the right spot and you want a better screen with 120 Hz, response time, all of that, that'll be a good upgrade for you. It's just, this feels like an unforced error by AYN. They could have just released the Thor and waited on this. It really is, we have to wait for emulators to catch up. We have to wait for software to catch up. So the 8 Elite right now is early access. That's what you're buying. You're buying an early access product from the software and processor perspective. So if you plan on scouring custom driver pages from Kimchi every month to see if there's a new custom driver, if you plan on waiting for Eden or Citron to have a new update that says better 8 Elite support, RPCSX to do the same thing, other emulators to do the same thing, if that is you, if you're somebody who has that hunger to wait every month and then test it and play with it, then I can see where the Odin 3 comes out ahead for you. But by the time all of these emulators and software catches up in 6 to 12 months, there will be another Odin or whatever from AYN with an 8 Elite with probably better specs, and you can just get that and then get the compatibility. I hope this is coming through. This is a weird scenario because we are at the high end of Android where software needs to catch up now. Software is the problem. Hardware has outpassed it. So when you get past what the Odin 2 can do, you start running into compatibility issues, start running into all of these problems where the Odin 2's 8 Gen 2 is a strong processor right now, to the point where I think the Odin 3 is the best advertisement for the Odin 2 portal. Really, honestly, I mean, the Odin 3 is going to be smaller, more compact in a lot of ways, but neither of them are pocketable. The Odin 3 is probably a little bit more portable, but at the end of the day, they are 99% home devices. So if you're going to be at home with one of them, probably get the better one, I think, and the cheaper one too. That is where I see, and again, I'm an Odin 2 Portal fan, so I'm looking at this from that lens, but it is tough. I can see the pricing is good, but the pricing is good if the 8 Elite had value right now, which it kind of doesn't. I saw somebody say that this is like buying an electric vehicle before the city gets electric charging stations. And I thought that was a really cool analogy because, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. You are early adopting a processor that just isn't there yet for support. And so you are going to be on the front end of testing things to make sure it is good. But again, for a lot of people, Odin 2 original users, Retroid Pocket 5 users, I don't even know. Anybody else that wants everything up to GameCube and PS2, then this looks good. I don't know if it's the best option, personally. Now, if you're curious about my thoughts, I think it came through already. I think this is unforced on their end. I think they could have just did the Thor. I think they could have just waited on the Odin 3. My guess is because the Thor and the Odin 3 are using a custom OLED panel, they have to make that money back somehow. So they had to release both of these at the same time to make all that money back. A custom panel is not cheap. So that's where my mind goes, but it feels too soon. It really does. I don't have the excitement that I do for this device. Mind you, I didn't have it for the Odin 2 Portal, and that ended up being my favorite device of all time. But this is different. This feels different. It doesn't, I can't see the upgrades here. It is where I'm thinking. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. This is probably the first AYN device that I am really on the fence about, if we don't include the Lokis and all that. Those were terrible. But the Odin 2, Odin 2 Mini, Odin 2 Portal are fantastic devices. The Odin 3 probably could have just did the Thor. I don't want to keep repeating myself. You probably could have just did the Thor and waited on this one. That's kind of where I'm at. So, sound off in the comments. Are you grabbing an Odin 3? Why or why not? I don't mean this to be negative at all. I think there's a lot of good reasons that you could and should buy one. It's a weird release, I think. And I'm also curious, is anybody buying the Odin 2 Portal because of this announcement? That's what I want to know. Our games of the month are flying this month. Both of them are seeing a lot of action. And just as a reminder, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons is the game of the month, and Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow Reprise is the ROM hack of the month. And then our game of the season ends this month, so it's Suikoden 2, ends at the end of this month, and then we get to vote on our new game of the season until the end of December. So if you're excited about playing a game of the season, a longer RPG game, it's mostly RPG, come vote in the Discord. We'll be doing that pretty soon in a few weeks. As always, let's end off with the newscast. Newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com is the email address, or you can send it in through the Discord channel. It's newscast Q&A there. First question comes in from Pablo. What do you think about the AYN Thor being an all-in-one device? Emulating Switch and perfect two-screen emulation devices with the Thor dual screen. Would you consider it a good deal for the ultimate handheld? This is actually an interesting question, and I can see it. I didn't think about it before, but I can see it. Is the Thor, or a dual screen device like the Pocket DS, a final handheld for a lot of people? And I think it could be, right? You have all the benefits of a single screen device. Then you get the dual screen for all of those dual screen devices or consoles like DS and 3DS. So there is a world where you could look at a dual screen handheld like the Thor and say, this is the most complete handheld that we've ever had. It is the most final handheld because there isn't a single system or anything that isn't emulated properly on it or isn't set up properly, whatever you want to say. So yeah, I think so. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited about the Thor. Now, I've said it before, I'm not going to say it again, but my whole screen refresh rate issues aside, I think the Thor is going to be a really cool device. I'm worried about the hinge. I'm worried about the comfort of the controls, all of that fun stuff. But yeah, no, I could see that, Pablo. You're definitely right. Last question comes in from Shortening of the Way. What is the best console of all time? And what is your favorite console of all time? Best console of all time. I don't know if I have one. I've said Game Boy Advance a lot of times, but Super Nintendo and PS1 are also there for me. Maybe it's just a trifecta of all three. And my answer for both questions is the same. It's Game Boy Advance, PS1, Super Nintendo. I don't want to pick one. So one of those three I could live with forever. Doesn't matter which one. I think if I had to rank them, let me think about this. If I had to rank them, I probably would have to go Game Boy Advance because of the ROM hack situation, top, PS1 next, Super Nintendo third. If you got rid of ROM hacks, maybe PS1 first, Game Boy Advance second, Super Nintendo third. That might be where I'm at. But let me know in the comments if you're still here at this point. What is your best console, or what do you think the best console of all time is? And what is your favorite console of all time, if they're different? Let me know. That is everything this week. Make sure to like and sub to help the newscast grow. Don't forget, we have this on podcasts all over the world if you want an audio version. Consider subscribing to my YouTube membership if you want to support me. Otherwise, appreciate you all for watching. And that's all from me. Truth or consequences, New Mexico.